I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where diseases...
Hello and welcome listeners to another episode of Tactical Awareness. It's Season 1, Episode 33. And we are back with part 2 of our, review, contemplation, and opinions about the new reinforcement profiles that were spoiled by CB. Now, August 3rd, the end of this week, we're going to get the actual updates in Infinity Army, and we'll do an episode on that. But for now, we're going to go over what we think of the reinforcements themselves, give you impressions of these units that'll be coming up for next year. So, a little bit of different audio for me this week. I was up north and doing everything through my phone, which will have to be, a proof of concept that I can do these things remotely. So, you guys are putting up with that for this week, but we'll be back to normal next week.
And then there was part 2 of the reinforcements. Hey, everybody. It is the week after Gen Con. Or is Gen Con this weekend? I can never remember. Also, I don't care because I'm not there, and I hate everyone who is. So we are going to be following up with the last stretch of profile spoilers. We covered everything up until, I think we completely forgot to mention nomads. We forgot they existed last week, didn't we? We just ignored them completely.
Who's nomad?
But we did.
I feel like we talked about the casino security because they're solid.
Oh no, but I think they got spoiled afterwards. I think we just forgot they existed because we were so hell-bent on Combined Army and 2A.
Oh, yeah.
We just we forgot about nomads. So those are the three that we didn't cover. Yeah, we didn't cover them.
Who's nomads? Yeah, I know.
They're the second most red faction of the red factions. So then we're gonna do some AMA. We're gonna take some listener mailbag. You guys were fantastic, and you filled up the listener mailbag. We're down to one question, and now we have a glorious pile of questions again to get through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 questions, 10 questions. Incredible. We have weeks of questions, or at least days.
Ash, you're so good at capturing.
I'm not. I full on Sesame Street that shit, didn't I? I went all the way to double digits. Good job, Ash. Pat yourself on the back. And yeah, we'll catch up what everybody's doing. I actually got some painting done this week. I'm going to lead because I'm excited. And I actually did some Infinity painting, which I hadn't done in a while. I like to paint my Infinity as a palette cleanser. And I went through and I painted 2 tags and 4 crazy koalas.
Wow.
And I also collected all of the stuff I needed to paint for my missing, I probably want these functional units for my JSA. And the impetus for that actually was the reinforcements thing, because of the reinforcement selections that are out there to try out reinforcements and do a battle report so you guys can watch it. The N2A one is the most complete because it has all the models available to it, right? You can play with brawlers and war drivers, and I believe even diggers are in there. There's a bunch of just existing units, which we'll go through in a bit. But it means that I can run JSA with the mercenary reinforcements, and then Onyx Contact Force has the Cascuda. We have the Cascuda profile now, and tons of what's in the Combined Army reinforcements are existing Onyx profiles, like the Umbra, the agents, the not a Gamma, I want to say a Gamma, it's the Nexus agents. And then of course the Cascuda is a big chunk of points in that reinforcement, right? So we'll be able to try out Onyx versus JSA. So I think we're going to run the 3 missions from from Ensong, the 3 narrative missions using reinforcements, and we'll do N2A versus Onyx as the 2 factions, because I'm just gonna paint my Cascuda, and then Jordan already has his Onyx all painted up and we can throw down, which I'm kind of excited for. I painted double Oyurois. So I now have 2 Oyurois painted. I promised at the last Tactical Awareness tournament that the Oyuroi list that I liked that was there, I would try out at some point, and I have the models. I have the old Oyuroi and the new Oyuroi, so that they complement each other. Like they actually look pretty good next to each other. The old Oyuroi is kind of just showing his age with how big the details are. Like you can really tell this was a model that was sculpted by hand. It wasn't sculpted on a computer. Like it's got big chunky detail, but it actually made it a ton of fun to paint. And the new Oyuroi is badass too. So I had a fun time painting the new one, but then the old one finally got painted, although it's sat assembled since I don't know when the JSA got redone, like 2016. It sat assembled for a while and didn't get painted. And I stole 2 crazy koalas from the new Horang sculpt because I wanted all my crazy koalas to match. So I've got 4 of the new crazy koalas painted. And then I dug out and assembled and primed and base coated all of the rest of the JSA stuff that I want. Like I want a Tokusatsu engineer, because I'm gonna have 2 tags. I probably want to have the engineer, even just to go into like shoot like gizmo kits at him. Then the whatchamacallit, Yojimbo, because in Jimbo, like a 20-point smoke thrower in JSA is fantastic. That's on a bike. Jimbo's a great steal. So I want to get him painted. I got my Kitsune put together so I can do her. Yeah, just like all the odds and ends I hadn't done. I'm very few models. And the only thing I haven't built yet is I need to build my box of the robots. What are they called? The Total Immunity guys. Help me out, Owen.
Katakuri?
Karakuri, that's right. I gotta paint my Karakuri. But they're being done from a white base coat, not a dark gray base coat. So I'm doing them separately. So it's like I was doing everything in batches, right? So I started with the dark gray stuff. And that was it. That's what I worked on this week. What'd you guys work on?
It's times like these where I still realize how little I know about Infinity, because like so much of that went right over my head. I was like, "What are you talking about?" Thing? I don't know what's going on.
Well, it's funny because JSA stuff only exists in JSA for the most part. They're one of the few factions where like they don't share their stuff. Like they were like a section of Yu Ching that got broken out, right, and like put in by themselves. So like they're one of the few factions that don't actually share anything, which is kind of neat. So you wouldn't really have heard about it except for Owen and I talking about playing our JSA armies.
I mean, I played against Dan with my JSA army a couple times.
Yeah, but you skewed into bikes.
I can't remember the names of things.
He knew what a Katakuri was.
I do know what a Katakuri is because they screwed me in the last tournament, and they screwed me every time. They screwed me good.
There's such an outlier, the fact that you've got these like 3-structure total immunity, like heavy infantry guys with multi-rifles and like all this like gear. They're a crazy outlier in that faction. I think they're super cool. You pay for it, obviously, but I think it's neat. So what'd you guys work on?
I painted some things up. I made a
Did you finish up you finished up those models while we're talking?
And I forget what I actually painted. Oh yeah,
Droid and Sarko.
Yeah. And then a Rem Racer and.
Some people asked what that model was you were using for the Rem Racer. What was it?
I posted a link to it's a free STL for 3D printing.
Sweet.
So it's a cool little dude, and I made him like a little bit more bright purple, like he's like some like fancy like show off Rem Racer dude, kind of gonna be on kind of like NASCAR kind of outfit. Not actually.
I was gonna say
not too lazy.
Some Ricky Bobby shit.
Yeah.
Give him some not you're not first or last.
He definitely pops out more than the rest of the people in my army. But then I also had like a random Cube Jagger that I had collected just for the sake of collecting, and I painted him up as well. So, and I've realized now that I have like the Roadbot. I mean, the 3 models that involve that, and then I have another Omega, a Beta, a Cuervo, and 2 Blue Coats, and then everything in my O12 would be painted. And I think I have just about everything that you can bring. There's a few more outliers, but I have almost a complete collection of O12 and Sarmata.
That's wild. That's so cool. It's such an accomplishment to have painted a faction.
We're getting there.
I painted, or I'm in the process of painting, 8 ninjas / Oniwabans / Shinobus. Because I'm rounding out my JSA with all of my infiltrating guys. And I also painted 15 Nomad models, and I've primed, assembled, and got my 5 new tags ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I rebased 20 Wraith Guard.
20 metal Wraith Guard.
Yeah, old boy metal Wraith Guard, ready to go. Just in time for the nerf.
Well, it's very funny because there's a lot of controversy right now with, speaking of a crossover between those two worlds, Games Workshop's world and the Infinity world. But they've just done an article on Warhammer Community about proxying the old Space Marine shit as new Space Marine stuff. And like they did a whole article of like, yeah, this will be tournament leader. If you just base your old Space Marine bikes, they can be Outriders. And it's raised a whole bunch of eyebrows because Games Workshop does not do that. They're a very WYSIWYG company, and you have to have the right model, and it has to be equipped as is. And kind of for the first time, they're giving you like, well, if you have old Primaris models, you can just use them as these. And it's like, or old Space Marine models, you can just use them as these. And a lot of people are like, what? Like,
yes, make my TAC Marines all intercessors. Save me buying 2 more boxes of intercessors.
That's it. That's the kind of the logic. It's like, well, if they're just Marines with bolters, they could just be intercessors. So it's like, whoa, interesting.
Oh, I did finish off my last 20 intercessors too. Posted that picture, nice. I think.
Your heavy intercessors, your big yellow boys.
Well, the littler ones, like just the regular ones that go with those heavies.
Oh, the regular ones. Got it.
Where I went 5-man teams where everyone gets a Thunderhammer.
I remember the good old days when it was only one kind of Space Marine I hated.
The players?
Nice. Good one.
Yeah, I read that article. I didn't even think about that as, oh, you're can proxy. Because it's like specific.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, it's use this as this, use the dreadnoughts as this, use the scouts as this. And it's like, as long as they're on the right size base. And it's like, oh, that's opening a big door. Like, that's a very big door to like. And the reason it popped into my head is Owen has for years wanted to get the 1990s epic Mortarion, who is all of 1.5 centimeters tall, and use him as a Mortarion on a base, on a Mortarion size basis, but on a rock.
I have the Nagash
several times. I know you do. I know
he has his base well. Too.
I know.
He's on it right now.
You have the closet. The Gary Morley Nagash, who very nearly got painted, and that's like a whole. There's a door creaking open that I don't think Games Workshop wants Owen to step through.
I don't think that door was not open before, but I think what happened is that the other profiles still existed in some form, whether it was through Legends or something like that. Like, I don't think there's ever been a time where GW built a new model that came out and then said that it replaced the old TAC Marine, right? Like, when the multi-pew part kit for Space Marines came out, they didn't say you couldn't use your 2-piece or 2-part one, like the guys who are just like the flat dudes with bolters. So like, they didn't go away. But if they did remove Space Marines and there was the Primaris Marines and they said, use your Space Marines as Primaris Marines, there is no like old Space Marine that you could have been still playing them as. So I don't think it's the same thing.
There's no precedent. Yeah, isn't really a precedent for this with them, right? So that's why it's kind of interesting. I think people are
because they don't usually phase stuff out like that has an allegory. Like there's usually not
exactly.
Like sometimes they've removed stuff, like they've removed a lot of the stuff in the Dark Eldar, and they've removed stuff in Space Marines, and they've removed stuff in regular Eldar. But usually there's not like a one-to-one, like this is the biker, this is the Primaris biker. There are no more bikers. Why not just use them as Primaris
There's no
bikers?
Equivalent. Yeah, there's
but
no
now
equivalent.
These guys actually have an equivalent. So long as you have the right base size, then yeah, why not? And you won't run into proxy issues because the other guy doesn't exist. It's not even like
there's no question, really.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I guess they do technically exist as legends, right? It's like it's the reason
they don't exist as legends. They're going away.
No, they will exist.
Some of them will be legends.
Some of them will, yeah. Some of them will be legends. But like, there will be a case where I'm sure there's going to be something that can go to be X or Y, but also still be legends, right? Like, there's going to be some kind of blend over. I guess it's just because last week we had this exact question of like, what happens when a range gets too big and they start retiring stuff, and do you have 2 ways to play? And it seems like the solution Games Workshop came up with was, no, we don't have 2 ways to play. we'll have some old Legends profiles I guess you can play with. They won't be tournament legal though, but then here's the tournament legal, because it's kind of the answer that you gave. And this seems to be the route that Games Workshop's taking with this like they're literally biggest, oldest model range. They've like proxy some of it, and some of it's just going to go into a separate format where it's the funsies format. So it's just an interesting follow-up. Current events, art imitating life, and our current questions, basically having like a real world like allegory. All right, well, let's do some mailbag. Let's jump in and answer some questions from you all. We got our first one here from Me the Best. It's for everybody. And it says, and this, I think this is actually a question for Owen. It's, can you bring too many dogs? Would I be mad for bringing 3 Cameronians and McMurrow and having 4 dogs in an army? I'll have Owen answer that question. What do you think?
I feel like that's so little dogs.
I mean, you could do better, but
well, you couldn't in Caledonia, because in Caledonia specifically, you don't get antipode packs and you don't get
stray locks,
the additional dogs, stray locks and stuff like that, right? It's only intact that all dogs can go to heaven. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so. The problem is, I don't think Caledonia supports it as well as Tartary does, because Tartary has some like interesting specialist infiltrators or like forward deploy guys who can get jobs done, and you also have way cheaper dogs, like because like antipodes like pound for pound are cheaper than the dog faces, and they're 3 guys, and so like you can trade lives a lot faster than the dog faces can. Like you send one antipode up a wall into a TR bot and they both die, and you're like, mission accomplished. And then you send a Cameronian
that army's all
die.
about buying time. Yeah, it's about buying time for the button pushers to do the button pushing job, and that's why the mix is so good. I mean, the Caledonians get SASs, right? They get they get the same sort of like cheap button pushers that can go in and do those same jobs.
I would say SAS are super cheap. I feel like they're for high 20s, aren't they?
No, they're like 20. I think the specialist assault pistol chain rifle one is like 19 or 20 points. They're not as cheap as like
20 to 26. Yeah, 20 to 26. Yeah. The cheapest specialist is 21.
They're not Foxtrots, because Foxtrots are.
That's what I was thinking.
You're thinking of Foxtrots and 17-point US Ariadne button pushers that are like amazing, because they're just so cheap.
If you leaned on SAS and dogs, you could do some fun stuff there,
especially for like midfield button push missions, for sure. And I mean, I think that's just the question of like, do you lean into a faction strength or not? Like, I think if you have 2 lists in any sectorial faction, at least one of them should lean as hard as you can into whatever it is that makes them unique and cool, right? And I think that one of the things that's unique and cool about Caledonians is your war bands and your dog war bands. Like the Cameronian is what, 27 points for a pre-transformed.
Oh no, I'm looking at Mormare.
You'll get more mares. The Cameronian is like, I think 25 or 27 points.
20.
20 points. There you go.
Yeah.
So why would you not, right? Like,
yeah,
absolutely. That's a big faction strength. So one of your 2 lists, I think,
87 points for the 4 of them, I'd do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so I don't think it's so much like, do you always take 4 dogs? I think it's, do you lean into a strength like that and go, hey, you know what's real good is all these total immunity guys, 3 total immunity guys that can run forward and take the shots and clear the zone so that I can push buttons.
I think when you line up against whatever opponent you're playing against, is their faction a good MSV fighty faction? Maybe don't bring that list. Is it not? Go get them.
Yeah.
Like if they have Atalanta, or they have like a Keelegard or a Marut, probably don't bring them. If they have like, I have like 1 special sniper guy, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can fight 1. But like, you don't want to fight the like hyper snipers or the Morats with their stupid MSV link guy, because he's just going to shoot those dogs to death.
Yeah. Whereas like, if you're going into like a high D faction that's like, you know, all like camo markers of it, like if you go into Shaz Vasti, or if you go into JSA, or you go into like certain like Yu Chang builds, Hawk Islam, all those
other
Ariadna chain rifles, other Ariadna, all those high whip chain rifles are gonna have a real good time just going out and being like, cool, like you got a mono weapon, cool, don't care, let's dance, let's
hey,
go.
look, it's a ninja. What if I just hit him with this rock?
That's right. What if I just chain rifled him because I passed my whip check and now he's dead? What if I just exploded his body? Yeah, so that would be my thing. What is your take on that, Dan? Before we move on,
I don't know. I like playing fun things. The more diverse and cool things on the table, the better.
Yeah, me too. I get that. I understand that. But you're also like lethally allergic to taking what normally people would take all the time. Like you're a guy who thrives on bucking like whatever the accepted wisdom is and trying to make other things work. So I can see that not being something you'd be into.
Snowflake.
I don't think you're a special snowflake. I think you're uncomfortable in a mold. All right, question 2. No, we'll go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Go ahead.
You're not special, Dan. Moving on.
We're just yeah, that's right.
By definition, every snowflake is special.
Well, actually, by definition, literally nothing is special. Everyone, we're all spinning towards oblivion, Dan. So Travis asks for everybody, when judging if an expensive model is worth taking, is there a ratio of points to skills and or equipment that you look for? Dan, you go first this time. What do you think about that?
I think it's more of I put in the expensive guy, and then I think, can I get enough support around him that if he dies horribly, I have backup plans and or other ways to do things. And if I can't, then he's too expensive. But if I can, then he's fine.
Yeah, I hard agree with that. I think it's a holistic. The question isn't about him individually, it's the holistic stuff that floats around him that allows you to get the mission done, because there's no single piece in Infinity that does the whole job by himself, right? He can do the job he's designed to do typically really well, but he needs that other stuff around him. Like even like a super powerful thing like the Avatar, you get less value out of him the less orders you have to feed him, so you have to think about what goes into the rest of the list to make him more effective. What about you?
I'm always looking at wounds and armor to points.
Okay.
In the current iteration of the game, with how prevalent templates are, at least in my feeling, if you get over 25, 30 points and you only have one effective wound, you're basically out of the running for many of the lists I play. You're no longer, you're too expensive, regardless of whatever abilities you have, because the ability for some guy to be like, and I chain rifled him, means like, oh, Mim 6, infiltrating, martial arts 25, armed with the best monofilament gun. Like, it doesn't matter, because some idiot is just going to chain rifle you or light shotgun you and you're going to die. So like, if it gets into that like 30 plus range, you need to have either like shock immune, no wounding cap, or 2 wounds, or like a decent armor stat or something like that. Because regardless
remote
of
presence, you have like 2. Yeah, remote presence, you have like 2 levels of unconscious. So you can get brought back and stuff like that.
I actually don't count that because they're no longer viable. Like the Sujan is the exception because he has his no wounding cap remote presence. But the other guys, like, it's still get to 2 structure. Like there's now remotes out there that do that. So like, what's the Nomad one? The scary one that's out now?
Vostok.
Yeah, like that's a no joke remote. Like he fills the role of like, if I was going to spend a lot of points, like he's a 44 point remote, which makes him like a fighting hitting piece, but he's got Mim 6, he's got a good gun, and then notably he's armor 3 with 2 structure, and he's also immune to AP and shock, which makes him always have that full armor. Shock is kind of whatever, but that's what I would want him to be at like the bottom. Like if he had 1 wound, no wounding cap, I might even still not do it. In the same vein that like I personally really like Magariba guards as a ratio thing because of the armor 8 with 3 structure puts them in a position where for 85 points they're about 40 points more than, or sorry, about 35 points more than the others really heavy infantry that are out there, but they gain 3 extra armor and a wound. Because like the other big heavy infantry that are in the 50-ish range, things like Sunduck Butts or Alpha Sids are 2 wound armor 5 or armor 4. And like you look across factions and that's kind of the same. This thing jumps another 15% armor ratio and a wound. And like that makes it okay. So for me, it's like, and it came up a bunch when we were having conversations about the stuff in JSA, or not JSA, Yuching, were models that like you guys had identified as like, oh, this is really good. For me, it's like too expensive. Go like either go all the way and like bring Sun Tzu Fighty Edition where he's all of the right stats and has a defensive stat like total immunity, or just don't bother. Like go really cheapo throwaway infantry.
I will push back that you are far more likely, just in your mental space and your mindset, to peace trade than a lot of players I find. So while I do agree with you, I do think that there's an inherent prevalence of template attacks now, especially like in the reactive phase in Infinity that you can trap people with and use. I will say that you are the person I know that almost does peace trading the best that I've met, because you will like do that like hard calculus of like, is this piece better off for me dead with you also being dead? And you're much more willing to sell the lives of your men in that way. I found my impression with most of the people I've played Infinity with is that is a hard place to get to. You have to play a lot of Infinity to really feel comfortable losing pieces. And you're very comfortable losing pieces.
Took me 2 games against Owen where I'm like, wait, I want to do this too.
And then you had a non-lethal faction where all your templates didn't kill anybody. You had to do it with goo guns instead. And the odd heavy player was mostly goo guns. But yeah, so it's not really a pushback. It's like, I think you have an exaggerated sense of how vulnerable people are to that. Not because I don't agree that they aren't vulnerable, because I do agree that they are vulnerable to that. I think there's a lot more templates than there used to be with light shotguns getting templates. But I think that the impact may not be as severe as you think it will be, because I think a lot of people still really struggle to piece trade, to like see the value of losing a piece while killing a piece. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm saying this is what I'm looking for in my ratio for points. If you can skew, like I think Katakuris are also really high on my list for like out of the heavy infantry that are in JSA, which they have a lot of them. The Katakuri are like the most expensive, other than like the Shikami and the Daiokai.
Yeah, the Daiokai and the Shikami. Yeah.
But I would put the Katakuri above both of them, like personally, like having used both. The only things that the other two get to argue is the Daiokai has a good link with NCO, and Shikami is a specialist jumpy man. And so like those are what make the case for them. But when it comes to the actual, like, I need to go fight people, Katakuris are like my go-to piece.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I think what you're doing is like the thing that you're picking out is like your calculus is, if someone can do what I would do to this piece with a piece trader, then I don't want to take that piece. And I totally get that. Like I'm agreeing with you with that. I'm just pointing out that I think your calculus is you are more prone to make that judgment just because you're more prone to piece trading.
The number of infiltrating heavy flamethrower grunts that I have sacrificed in the name of winning a battle. Like, you know how many infiltrating heavy flamethrower grunts Shikami can take? You know how many infiltrating heavy Shikami or grunts a Katakuri can take, or Karakuri?
The answer is don't die for your country,
and less
son.
than one.
Don't die for your country, son. Make some other poor son of a bitch die for his.
Yeah. My Shikami's got min 6 and specialist and super jump and climbing plus, and he's forward deployment and he's shocking, and you're like, heavy flamethrower.
How many times can you roll a 12 plus? Hey, Karakuri, how many times can you roll a 12 plus?
Karakuri or TI, they don't give a shit. They just go one flamethrower hit. Thank you. I gunned them back. True, yeah. I hit one with my chain rifle because I had one too. Let's see which one of us dies first.
Yeah,
I get 3 mulligans. You get 1.
All right, third question. We've beaten this horse. This is from Ralph/Uthrock, and this is for all of us. Have you guys played internationally? People are often talking about the different metas, like building tables, for example, of the US, Spain, Europe, Russia, etc. And I was wondering whether or not this is true. So I've played, I mean, I guess Owen and I probably have both played internationally in so much as we played in the US a little bit, at cons and stuff like that. I've traveled and played in several different metas just across Canada, and Canada's a pretty big space, but I've also played a bunch of people who have come to me from internationally. In fact, this past week I played a fellow from Germany who plays in Berlin all the time, and he talked to me about their meta, and it seemed like their scenery collection and table density was pretty much the same as ours. I played a fellow from Croatia, I played a bunch of people from England.
I think this is a myth, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
When we were at Adepticon, I've interacted with a bunch of people who have traveled or are from further away. And like, I think there's been a few instances where there was a sparse table setting at events, and that has kind of like crept into the zeitgeist. Like,
yeah,
it's different overseas, and it's like, is it?
So my impression of that originally is I actually think it had to do with where CB licensed Infinity Terrain initially. So I think it came in initially because people making terrain specifically for Infinity were in these certain locations, and everybody else was either repurposing other terrain or building their own out of like boxes and stuff like that. So I think this is I agree with you, but that it's kind of a myth today, because I think it's been perpetuated, but I think it started during a time when Corvus Belli was relying on us to come up with our own terrain. They hadn't licensed a lot of companies yet. Like there wasn't a lot of like MicroArts or Bandua or these companies that do like pre-printed Warsenals, where these terrain kits that are kind of like everywhere, you see them on lots of tables now, just didn't exist. So my impression of that is if you take today, well, I'd say the most common thing I see on any tournament in Infinity Table is I see Corvus Belli's own terrain, right? I see the whatchamacallit, the cardstock tray that you can get in all the Code 1 boxes. And I think that if you were in North America and all the CB terrain that you had access to was just the old terrain, the old box terrain, which was very small, then you probably had a very uneven distribution of what tables were supposed to be and be like, because people were kind of making it up as they went along. And now there's kind of more of a standard format for what ends up on tables. And I think that story has kind of become legend over time, because it's just evened out and there's just more stuff available, and CB themselves make terrain kits that are cheap and look great and are easy to use. Dan has no opinion on this because I don't think he knows what we're talking about.
I played Owen.
That's right. Yeah, you played the Calgary meta. That's it. But yeah, I know Owen and I have definitely, especially in the past, listened to a lot of debate about like the Euro style table or the North American style table. And I do think I think like most myths, it was based in a grain of truth, which was just what the world, where Infinity was at and what people had access to in different places. But I think at today's world, it's just gone into there's no real differences. Everybody's got access to kind of the same stuff.
Yeah, but it's the same, like it's the same vibe I get when it's coming to things like list metas, where I think that there's like myths around there, and like I have my perspective of how I think the game plays and like what's optimal. But when it comes to trying to find like actual data on that, it's a son of a bitch trying to find anything.
Yeah, it's all anecdotal. It's 100% anecdotal. And I can think of like reasons why certain things may or may not be more and less popular. Like I think there was a lot of discussion about like how lists on the IGL, the online tabletop simulator version of Infinity, were playing and how great they were. And a lot of those great players were playing in real life and doing really well in tournaments too. But I do think that there is, when that discussion happens, when you have 6 hours to play a game and you're not under like a time pressure at a tournament to play in a certain number of minutes, you know what I mean? there's a different experience the player goes through having to do stuff. And so I think certain lists that might be very popular when you have a much longer amount of time to complete your game might not be as, and you can make like more optimal choices because you're slowing down and you're basically playing chess off of a clock. You get value out of things differently, whereas more direct, applicable units that just do one thing really well, they're very easy tools to use when you're under time pressure and you have to make like quick decisions. And so I see why certain arguments come to pass between like this list is good and this list is good and this list is good. But I think the environment you're playing in might affect that, like, because you value different things at that point because you're having a different experience while you're playing the game.
The only place I'm able to find any kind of numbers about Infinity is tabletoptournaments.net. They have a whole bunch of tournaments and they have a bunch of data on their Infinity games, of which they have a couple thousand games. So they have some like decent numbers around things, but
not so bad.
Even then, like on that one, in their experience, Pan-Oceania as a faction, like just Pano, not the subsections, is the most popular game, this like faction played. Makes up the largest number of Infinity players, followed by Nomads at 19%, Yu Ching, Hakislam, Ariadna combined, Aleph, Toha, and then all the sectorials start popping up.
Huh. That could be how they're collecting data too. They could be collecting umbrella data. Like, so it could be like two subsets, Pan-Oceania.
This is based off of the lists assigned when people register, what faction they say they're playing. So does that mean that they weren't playing sub-factions? Don't know. But like Pan-Oceania as a faction was used in 426, or it was used 426 times in a tournament.
Crazy.
With Nomads, like here, if I do who's used the most in all tournaments, Nomads, Hakislav, Yuching, Ariadna, Pano, combined, Aleph, Toha. Like they're still the same top batch. They're not quite in the same meta as like how many players in Infinity play this army, but these are the ones like Military Orders. It's the first sectorial, followed by Core Agador. Like you can see that this is old things are still higher up in the ratio because this is an older set of data. But anyway, that's all I have. I've tried to find stuff, but it just can't seem to be found. I know CB has it all. They should just release that so I can look at the metadata and know what the game is actually like, but they probably won't do that because reasons. You are a robot right now. Completely incoherent. Can't hear you at all.
We've lost Ash.
Well, we've asked all the questions. We'll just go on with that. Nope, it's not better.
Okay.
So anyways.
Yeah. We were talking about that new game mode, Ensong, and its reinforcements. And we were talking about the contracted backup, who I think, and Nomads, because apparently we didn't talk about them.
Wait. So we haven't talked about
Nomads or the NA2 stuff.
Is that it? And combined.
I feel like we talked about the Cascuda because we saved Maximus for last. Oh, maybe not.
No, we didn't talk about Cascuda.
All right, then there you go. So I guess that's something to say, is that the Commissariat Exra are the NA4 reinforcements that have shown up. Oh, Dan, you're the host now. Ash is dead. Long live Dan streaming.
All hail Dan. I'm going to start a new Patreon. You can just pay me.
Perfect.
Combine.
Extra, they're back.
Wait, they're back? They were here before?
They used to be a faction way back in the before days. Or they were like models that existed. I don't know if they were actually their own sectorial.
What is this extra special rule?
Apparently it is they do not have an unconscious state. They go directly to dead.
Oh.
Yeah. because...
So it's a negative?
Yeah. It is opposite of Shazvasti. Because the idea is they have exoskeletons, and if you puncture them to knock them unconscious, they just die. Like there's no patching them back up. All the goo that motivate... They're like a bunch of kifs with an armored skeleton, where if you puncture them, all of the sacks that keep them standing are broken, and they just fall to the ground in a puddle.
Kif.
Yeah, I kind of hate these models artwork-wise.
Oh yeah?
Like kind of a lot. I think they're really dumb. I think it's the forearms. Like, why would you... Like, I get it if their bodies were split in such a way that there's like that gap because it's alien, but would you make armor? Like, how the hell did he put that on? That's kind of what I'm thinking of. Are you like, look at the WCD base operators.
Wait, like, I have a concern.
Okay.
Oh wait, we're still recording. I can see in the top left.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not just talking to the great wide nothing. Cool.
We'll see if Ash figures his way back, and we will continue the recording. And if nothing else, whatever. We'll see where it goes.
Hail Extra.
Extra. Yeah. So reinforcements, you've got base operators, void operators, vector operators.
What about smooth operators?
That's some alliteration, isn't it? They're all operators, and two of them both start with V. I'm never going to remember which one those two are.
Exos.
Anyway, Exos, Extra,
WCD.
Executive Officer.
Yeah.
And then the Cascuda, who's the armored jump operator. And then you've got your robots along with an Umbra Legate, Kodali, and then fire teams. They get up to a core using base operators and void operators and Nexus operatives who are not operators. And then Vector, Void, and Nexus are in the Harrises as well. So that's neat. Cascuda can duo with a base operator, and then Exos are wild cards along with M drones and Kodali. Stat-wise, looking at the base operators, who are sort of the line trooper. Oh, is he back?
I made it back. We have
not a robot.
A massive thunderstorm just rolled in, so I don't know how long if I disappear again. I'm sorry, but I'm doing this up from the North Country where the weather is bad. What are we talking about?
We're bulldozing into Extra. I have named all of the links and the names of things, and I started rambling about how I didn't like their arms, and then gave up on that. And now we're talking about the models themselves.
Ah, sweet.
Yeah.
That's appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't know about their heads. I've built the tag, and he's got their weird sawtooth head. I don't know. I have to build and paint them, I think, before I'm really going to know how I feel about them.
And then we were also commenting that the Extra rule, according to, I don't know if it was a video or a post, means that you have no unconscious state. You just go directly to dead.
Yeah, it's the same as the old rule, and it is clearly designed to be, I think, a frenzy, where it makes their points a bit lower. But I don't know if that's true or not based on looking at the profiles. But we'll get into the profiles, I guess, and see.
That's where we're at right now. We're about to talk about the base operators.
Perfect.
Who are a 6'2" super jump, which I think is wild on a line trooper, essentially. But this is where your Extra skill is probably discounting them. BS11, which is probably pretty common. I think these guys are a low BS kind of gang, BS 11 and 12.
So my understanding is they're the bugs that are hunting Rick and Morty in season 1 of Rick and Morty. They're supposed to be kind of crap, but there's tons of them, and they are fast and shooty.
Little bugs.
Well, +1 burst multi-rifle that's a 5-man linkable or 3-man is
for
pretty
19
good.
Points. Super jumping
has
burst
super
4.
jump.
Yeah.
With 6'2".
That's wild.
Yeah, that seems pretty good.
He's burst 5 in that link. Rifles are 3,
sure
goes
is.
to 4, goes to 5. He has an
With
AP short range HMG.
Oh, wait for it though, because he's also burst 3 DA because he can anti-material for burst 3.
Yeah.
So he can either anti-material 3 times or he can shoot you with 5 AP rounds.
Yep.
Oh, that's really good.
Yep. And it's
19 points, Dan.
It's 57 points for the 3 of them if they just team up.
Yeah. And that's what you would take every time. Like 57 points for 3 of these assholes with burst 5 multi-rifles.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you look at all the other guys, you're like, meh. After looking at the multi-rifle profile, you're like, why did the other profiles exist?
The only one I like is the extra executive officer, who is a 19-point plasma carbine chain of command.
I think let's stick to the base operators.
I think I was talking about base operators.
Okay, yeah, I do think the hacker and the engineer, just as like the tag along, can have uses, right? So for 19 points, you can also have the engineer because he brings decharges and a shootable gizmo kit, which can be fantastic on a super jumping guy if you want to repair somebody. They have like this little AVA 5 group has all the tools to do a lot of work. I think they're great. I can't wait for base operators. I think they are fantastic. But yeah, the standard obviously is that multi-rifle profile. But as you've said before, Owen, they can also peace trade. For 17 points. You can get a combi rifle like shotgun, and with armor 2, they're not terrible. Yeah, but it's super jumping like shotgun. That's linked.
That used to be a thing, but with the number of guys who we've talked about already that have shown up, like namely the Hakislam guy and the Yu Ching.
What I'm saying is you don't get a lot of light shotguns in Onyx, right? So having access to one that's 17 points against super jump is a cool profile.
Fair enough.
All right, and then you were going on to that Extras executive officer. This is actually the limited edition model with the human skull for some reason. And go through a moment because you just said you like this guy.
Yeah, so 6'2", I think 6'2" is going to be the standard for these guys. He gets to the BS12 and whip 14. Phys 11, arm 3, BTS 3, 1 wound. So again, he takes that wound and he goes away. He is no longer on the board. He has remote presence. I don't know what the interaction is there.
Wait, what?
Because he has courage and remote presence. So does that trump his I instantly die? Like, does he go to a second level of unconscious instantly? I don't know.
I think remote presence actually gives him an additional level of unconscious. We'll have to see what the wording of.
I've only heard it audibly. I haven't actually seen it in text.
Exactly.
What it is that
that's
does.
what I mean. But my guess is that the weird reason it might be there is to give him a level of unconscious.
Yeah.
Which would be cool.
His claim to fame is he is a cheap chain of command or X-Visor specialist plasma carbon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an X-Visor plasma carbine is really neat.
Who is also linkable with his multi-rifle friends.
Yeah, and I'll put him on burst 3. Because the carbine's only burst 2, but it takes him to burst 3 then.
Yeah, and BS12. So he's a little bit better. And he still super jumps 6'2" like the others do. I don't think there's much else going on there, other than the fact that you can also get chain of command, but they are only AVA 1, so you kind of have to decide, do I want that or the carbine?
Mm-hmm.
The multi-rifle
mostly
is cool.
He's only, to get the multi-rifle one, it's not a +1 burst multi-rifle, but does have a nanopulsar, which is kind of cool. And he's got a para -6+ combo weapon. He's not that many more points than the other guy. He's 22 points. He's 3 more points than the base operator. So if you want to spend that 3 points to get that specialist, the X-Visor and the multi-rifle, it means that all of a sudden you've got a burst 4 multi-rifle in that fire team that can shoot outside 16, right? It can shoot up to 32 at zeros, which is not a bad little tack weapon to be able to tag in there with the better BS.
Can't the carbine do that, but just with 3 shots and then gets plasma instead of...
You could do that too, yeah, for cheaper, yeah.
Like, that's what I mean, is it's hard for me to see the other guy, because, like, nanopulsar's cool. I think there's something to be said there. Get another template. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think the trio...
Shooting to 32 at zeros, and with that template, you're right, I think it's cool. It's almost like putting a heavy weapon in there.
Yeah. I mean, the other multi-rifle is a heavy weapon, essentially, at that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then again, I think a cheap chain of command is super valuable. I think that 19-point half a swick chain of command man
Yeah, it only matters for now, but like we'll see what the new. I mean, chain of command can be very handy for classifieds at the moment, but we don't really know what that looks like going forward.
It can also be useful because it can just change up your vanilla or potentially other combined army lists. Because right now, like
the only problem is chain of command doesn't do anything with if this is a reinforcement profile, we don't know if it's a chain of command profile in the main list, right? Because right now the chain of command profiles actually don't do anything unless they come in on turn 2, because they come in after the tactical phase on turn 3. They actually don't take effect because you check chain of command when your lieutenant goes down. Which means if your lieutenant went down on turn 3 and that guy wasn't already on the table, your chain of command doesn't come in. Because chain of command it takes place immediately when the lieutenant dies, not during the tactical phase of the next turn. So it's like if he shows up, it doesn't really do anything. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't know how valuable this will be unless it's also, like you said, this is a profile that's going to go into vanilla.
Using Maximus and the Nomad guy as my example. I wasn't going to say the Cascuda. There's a Nomad, I believe, who gains infiltrate or not. Oh no, it's freelance operator Samza, who we're not talking about yet, but he's the other Exor guy. He has his non-reinforced profile, and he is identical to his reinforced pile. He's a little bit more expensive because he got his deployment ability, which is infiltration. So I'm kind of basing this off of the idea that these are going to be basically the same, and they may or may not get a deployment skill. Like the points might shift a bit, but for me, it's like if he's anywhere close to that same cost, even if he doesn't get any kind of fancy deployment zone, having that chain of command changes I don't just need to bring a mnemonic lieutenant now.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. I'm just pointing at the difference for the listener that it may mean more or less depending on if you're playing vanilla or reinforcements. I just don't want the listener to assume we're talking about reinforcements because he doesn't have the chain of command skill doesn't have a ton of value in reinforcements.
Right.
I just like assault pistols.
Does he get assault pistols?
He does. The X-Visor versions.
Ooh, cool.
It's kind of sad because assault pistol goes +3, 0, -6. So it's like
with an X visor it doesn't though. He's got an X visor, so it's only
right. But it goes -3 though, right? So it's +3, 0, -3. So there's never like a 0 where it would be negative.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it would be funny. Okay, because can you link these guys as well?
Yep, wildcard.
Sure can.
So you get a 5 burst assault pistol at range up to 24 at -3.
Which is he can't be a pure link though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but he's still BS 12. So it's assuming -3 cover. You get 5 dice on 6s. Good luck.
Go for it.
You just fish for that crit.
Next one is the Vector Operator. There is an inconsistency here where the reinforcements page that has all of the fire teams lists them at AVA 2. Their actual line says AVA 1. That's just something to point out. So I bet you that they're AVA 2 and reinforcements and AVA 1.
And 1. Yeah. I want to go the same. Yeah.
That's probably what happened there. But they're 6'2". BS 12, whip 13, arm 3, 1 wound extra. These guys get to play mimetism -3, multivisor level 2, so they get mods and remove mods, and are linkable. Standout guns, multi-marksman rifle, and Spitfire, in my opinion. You have kind of your generico boarding shotgun D-charges shock mine guy. He's not a specialist, but he got D-charges and mines, but I think
the boarding shotgun devalues his MSV2 and his mimetism a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're bringing this guy because he's mimetism, multi-visor, super jump man, and he links with the other guys, and so he's your problem solver. And I think the multi-marksman, I mean, if you have the Swick, you could go Spitfire, but multi-marksmans in links, I think, are just better than Spitfires.
The option for AP makes them better than Spitfires because they can fight up. The Spitfire only fights equal or down, right? As soon as armor gets into play,
you lose 1 damage,
goes up in value.
Yeah, but AP is better against those bigger guys than gaining the 1 extra armor, like damage point.
Well,
and you
AP,
you get a
AP
better
gains
ARO
you a
too.
damage point immediately. Yeah, unless you're fighting armor 1, the AP makes it the exact same as the Spitfire. It's the burst reduction, really, that's the differential, I think, between the two.
And the ARO on the multi rifles I find are better because they get the DA double tap instead of 2 regular shots.
Yeah, more dice are always good.
Is there smoke available in that faction?
Question mark, maybe.
In vanilla, so in vanilla, yes, right? If these become available in vanilla, the current temporary assumption is that most of this is going to go at low AVA into vanilla and then at higher AVA into Onyx. Because it seems like the extra have all been sort of lumped into the Onyx contact force.
So
with the Umbra and...
There are no smoke grenades in Onyx.
Okay.
No, but there are in vanilla.
That makes him less good.
He's also like vanilla combined army is not exactly fighting for, like, his MSV2 is like in competition with like 5 other guys who have MSV2 and
or 3
or 3, yeah.
Yeah.
Who are all
heavy
like
machine guns in 3.
Like the High Duke kind of beats the pants off this guy by being AP marksman rifle and having sapper and MSV2. And
this
so
guy feels
and he's
really
cheaper.
Yeah,
So
this guy feels like his home's in Onyx, it feels like, who don't have great MSV options. So
I think his home
like
is I'm linking with my operators, my buddies, and I'm providing the support that they might need.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're going to get a Harris at least, if not a core in Onyx, which will make this guy really cool. He just won't be as valuable in vanilla just because vanilla is already swimming in MSV options.
Because he links with our last guys, which is the Void operators. I like these guys a lot. They are 6'2",
NCO, man.
X visor, NCO, super jump, 360 visor, and then a whip 3, arm 3, BS12, 1 wound. Still Exra. I don't think I mentioned it. They all have courage built in. All of these guys have, and they all have dodge +1. They're only Fizz 11. I say only. They're better Fizz than many base infantry, but they're also paying like 5 points more for super jump and that extra dodge and courage. But these guys, 360 visor in a link and an X visor is great just off the top. And then they have boarding shotguns, Red Furies, light rockets, and SMGs who are killer hackers. And they're 19 to 27 points, depending on how big of a gun you want.
Yeah, the light rocket launcher is interesting, but I think actually in this case, the killer hacker and the boarding shotgun, I think, are my most favorites.
I like double team killer hackers with the Vector using his multi marksman as like a 1-2-3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're looking at like 66 points, which is kind of pricey, but now they can do any kind of special objectives with their hacking devices. They've got lots of SMG brawlerness. The MSV guy can go in and pick people off, and then the other 2 are just 360 visor, AP, or whatever SMG shots. Maybe you could swap 1 for a boarding shotgun, but I like them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're neat.
And then we have the biggest one.
This is it, the big boy.
Skuda, who also has both of his profiles available.
I like his old model.
And he got combat jump explosion. That's all I wanted to talk about. I don't care about the rest of this. I think his reinforcements profile is fine. So he's a bigly tag, size 7, arm 7, 3 structure. He's BS14, whip 12, which is hilarious. This guy is going to get shut down almost instantly, in my opinion. He has no hacking defenses. He has no ECM. And he's whip 12. So firewall and pray, because they're probably just going to turn him off. But he has BS attack +2 damage. He's armed with a chain rifle +1 burst, and then a combi rifle that's AP. So he has a terrifying BS14 combi rifle. That's it. That's his whole shtick. He's like a close range fighty tag with high damage and low whip.
I mean, damage 15 chain rifles are also pretty good.
You're right.
They sure
2
are.
burst.
And if you just AD on the head of the hacker that can hurt you, and then just go on a rampage, I think he's got some legs. And like the one thing you didn't mention is dude is only like 60 points, 64 points.
53 for the one I'm describing. His other one is where it goes up. The one I described is 53. The one that has the combat jump and stuff is 64.
That's what I mean. The one that you're going to actually use in a vanilla or an Onyx list is 64, right? He's in reinforcements. He's 53. It's when he actually gets his full gamut of skills and stuff, he goes up to 64. So I think that's a very, very interesting thing. The fact he's got remote presence, he doesn't have the extra roll, which means he's actually fairly like, like tough.
Yeah. The
he
11
is an armor 7, size 7 though, which is worth noting. He's not as tough as a normal tag.
There's a lot of size 7 armor 7s, aren't there? Am I misreading? Yeah,
there's a few.
Oiroys are.
Oiroi is, yeah.
I think like half the Nomad ones are.
No, they're all 8s.
I guess the problem is even if you combat jump on the hacker can turn you off as he dies.
Iguana's at armor 6. But you're right. Yeah, the tick trip hammers. That's my concern with this guy. And like I'll get you. I love combat jump, specifically combat jump explosion. I think it's crazy powerful. And this guy like solves the problem of the other guys who might die or get engaged or something, where he's big enough that he's just going to kill whatever comes down. Or you can shoot into the combat and not be too concerned that he's going to get killed by it because he's going to be armored like 10. But the problem is he's just so vulnerable to hacking. Like,
yeah, I mean I think the fact that you get to choose where he goes. And I wouldn't use the explode to kill the hacker. I would just arrive somewhere where you can move to template range and then kill him. Right? Like, because he has to dodge that template, and that template will destroy him.
Oh yeah, right? Don't jump onto the hacker. Yeah.
No. That's what I mean. Like jumping on the hacker. Like Dan, I wasn't saying jump onto the hackers and use your explode on him. I was just saying jump to where you can kill him and then just go on a rampage. Because he's actually really good at fighting other tags with that combi rifle. Because the combi rifle has a positive mod inside 16 where most tags are at a 0 mod, and he's got a damage 15 AP gun, right? So like it's
the fact that
effectively
he could land directly behind an enemy tag as a tag, and then hit him with a blast with that. So they're going to try and turn, and their dodges are all garbage because that's how they are. And then he's going to light him up in the back with his AP combi, and he'll be armor 10, BS 17, and they'll be armor probably not in cover, probably not even able to react because they probably failed the dodge turnaround. Like,
and you can support this guy to a 17 to combat jump. Yeah, so like it's hard to miss that jump.
He keeps his 6'4" movement. He didn't get slower like some tags. So even if you screw up the jump and he walks it on the side, he's fast enough that he's going to just get there anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know the interaction between tack aware and being off the board. Do you get it when you show up?
Tack aware is a skill, and you activate skills, I think, so at will.
Not the order pool?
It's not created during the order pool. Yeah, because I believe. Oh, you might not. You might be right.
Can you use tack aware to land then? Like, does that which way does that go? I don't know.
I don't think you get it.
No, but could you use it? Could you use it to land? Is a valid question. But the problem is it doesn't really matter, because even if you use it to land, the one that you have built into you wouldn't have, because it doesn't arrive during the order pool.
Right.
So I don't think tack-aware would populate, because I think tack-aware just generates you in a regular order during the order count. I think just like normal.
During the order count step, if the user is on the table as a model,
there you go.
the player will place.
Yeah, it's not usable. Yeah.
So that kind of sucks. But I mean, again, I don't think that's that bad. And it is at 64 points, his ability to just show up wherever he wants. Like, you're going to pay the 15-point Evo tax. So this is kind of a 79-point combo, but then you also have an Evo repeater who can do other jobs. And I think I think he's great. I think he's a solid addition and a threat that if you didn't bring hackers, you're going to bring more hackers. And also him out of reinforcements, he is safer because you can hunt your opponent's hackers down and bring him in when you want it. I've lined up and there's 3 Kappa hackers back there. These Gakis kill themselves killing the hackers. All right, Kaskuda time.
Yeah, I do think that like he's one of those pieces that if you are moderately skilled at using AD troops, this is going to be a really fun piece for you to take and play with. I think he requires a kind of higher a higher floor for your like familiarity with like get the most out of like a combat jump troop, because he doesn't have parachutists, right? He doesn't have an automatic arrival, right? It's where parachutists are a little easier for kind of everybody to use. He needs to get to the right place to be at his most effective. But I think if you play with him a lot, you get good at playing with AD troops. This guy's got a lot of like potential, and that knife fighting range band stuff is not a problem. I think people looked at him initially and were like, but he can't fight like a tag. And it's like, yeah, but he isn't a tag. He's literally a combat jump guy, except he's built around a tag, right? So like it's a combat, like you have to look at him as a combat jump troop first and a tag second.
Is he better than Duroc and Margot?
I think so, because you can put him anywhere. Because you can protect your deployment zones, right? You can protect your deployment zones with crazy koalas and peripherals and mines and 360 visors and stuff like that. There's ways of like watching your deployment zone and watching forward edges, because you know that it's a known quality where it's going to arrive, but an AD trick can go anywhere. You can't watch the whole board, and that guy's fast enough that once he arrives, he can get to like his optimal spot.
I think he's scarier than those two. I think he falls into the same pile of like, what does that do?
Yeah. Have you played a Katsukuta before? Have you played against the Katsukuta before? It's going to be a question that starts getting asked probably.
Do you know what Combined can do now? Have you ever played against the Onyx Task Force since the update?
Yeah.
And then this idiot is going to come down.
What he's doing is he's filling that same like Noctifer missile launcher sized hole, where there's always, when you play against certain combined armies, these things that might be happening. There's like a list of possibilities of like what the gaps you can't see in the army list are of these like invisible things that might arrive, and this guy's just joining the ranks of those guys in a terrifying way. So now you just have to worry about moving your fire team through the open. You have to also worry about this guy just exploding from the sky and landing on someone's spine. just coming down like it's Batman from a rooftop,
just eating
some guy in the back,
eating the machine guns and like mines and like lesser weapons that are used to normally stop guys like that.
Yeah,
like Van Zandt doesn't walk in if a mine could hit him. This guy could. First off, the mine's probably not going to hurt him, and even if it does, he's got 2 more wounds.
He lands on the crazy koala just because that's nice.
Yeah. Watch out, it's got shock. Sure. Yeah, I bet it does.
I bet that's cute. That's real cute.
Yeah, it's an EM mine. Fuck.
Just not wild. Just not wild parents. Don't like wild
Raven
parents.
Eyes.
Please don't have your wild parents. Yeah. Wild parents is one weakness. Oh shit. Parents.
Is that a Raven Eye? How many mines does he have? 2. Somebody's got to go run and die for me before I send him in.
That's right. Jackie Preda, I have a job for you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for the extra. I'm pretty hyped for them, I'll be honest. I think it's just enough of them. Like, they didn't come in as their own sectorial, which I'm fine with, but they feel different from other troops in Combined. I like their disposable nature thematically. I like that all of the unit profiles are relatively cheap. There's a lot of commentary online about people being nervous about like the fact that they can't be like, I don't want to spend points on something that can't come back. And I'm just like, no, these are perfect. They're literally disposable troops. They're the bug people from Rick and Morty, just getting waves and just getting thrown into the meat grinder.
Well, the more and more I play Infinity, the more I realize it's often not worth taking engineers and doctors unless you have special elite guys. But
or you have a guy big enough that the cost of bringing him back will be more beneficial. Like bringing back a
special elite goods.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking special elite doctors and engineers.
Oh, no. Special elite dudes to bring back. And so then, like, the fact that these guys are like glass cannons is like perfect for Infinity, and they seem really good.
The only thing I don't like about them is they're all kind of the same guy. They're all armor 3. They're all super jump. They're all 19 to 25 points. They're all armed with the same guns. They all have super jump. They all have the same stats with 1 point difference in BS.
But that's why I'm glad they didn't make 17 kinds of them, right?
Right.
It's not like Shaz Vastu where there's like a bajillion different kinds, but they're all sort of the same. You know
I just
what
wish
mean?
they were more different than each other with the same points. Like, I get it's reinforcements, and I bet you these change pretty substantially between the 3 of them. But like the Void Operator and the Base Operator are like the same guy.
Yeah, the one thing I wish they had, which they may have that we don't see, Owen, is one of those profiles that we haven't seen the vanilla profile for may not be linkable in vanilla and maybe like a drop troop or maybe like an infiltrator. Like I'm really hoping that like the Void Operator becomes an AD troop. You know what I mean? And like because like they don't when they're in reinforcements they lose all those skills, and so they may when we see the final profiles for vanilla be vastly different from what we're seeing here, where they're operating basically as a fire team. So I would bet money that when we see the original profiles, those 3 guys they end up with some extra kit that makes them not only more expensive but also quite like individually unique.
Giving them some kind of deployment skills, whether they're mine layers or they're drop troops or they're parachutists or they're infiltrators or forward deploy. Like you could give them any of those, and that would at least break them up across the group of them here. And the Cascuda is a perfect example of that, where he went from not combat jump explosion to combat jump explosion for 11 points.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think you put a pin in the final judgment on them to see what they look like when their final form is revealed.
Yeah. So we only have Nomads and the Mercenary one, the Reinforcements Contracted. I think we should do Nomads last because the Mercenaries are like a nothing conversation.
Let's just do it. Go for it.
Contracted backups are Brawlers, Monstruckers, CSU, Authorized Bounty Hunters, War Drivers, Diggers, Anacondas, Father Lucian, Miranda Ashcroft, and the only new guy, the Freelance Operator Samza. It is a Brawler fire team, the same as the Brawler fire team in every other instance that has Brawlers and fire teams. Brawlers, Monstructors, CSUs, Diggers, Authorized Bounty Hunters, and War Drivers. The Priv Enforcers fire team with Bounty Hunters and CSUs. There's no number on how many can be in that. I assume 5 because they have 3-2. Maybe not. If you could bring a 5-man pure team of CSUs and Bounty Hunters, that'd be cool.
If it's core hairs and do it for all these fire teams, and I'm having a core with Brawlers and I guess the mechanized fire teams are like 2 models anyway.
Well, I bring a core of these Priv Enforcers fire team, 3 Bounty Hunters, 2 CSUs. That's under 100 points for 5 of them, and they could have literally anything when they show up.
Yeah.
Mechanized fire
and
team.
Miranda. Yeah.
And then the mech fire team of the Anaconda, the Brawlers, and Forza and Ashcroft, who are both Priv Enforcers too. So it inclines like, is it going to be a 5-man team? Can you have a Lucian at the front of a 5-man fire team?
I think you can. I think it's going to be Sforza, Miranda, CSU's Bounty Hunters as like a 5-man core, which would be
it's going to be Harris. It'd be cool if it was 5, but and they gained Freelance Operator Samsa, who is the extra. I'm gonna get you. He is a Shazvasti guy. I think I have this model already. I just need to do a head swap. But
except he's an extra. He's a Shazvasti, but he's an extra.
I just mean purely from like he's even got his little foot up on the bench, like he's like a oh no, what are they called? He's like a Guilo that got his wings clipped.
Yeah.
But he's got a cool profile. He's either 30.
Well, he's available. He's also now. Here's the thing: is little asterisk in the bottom here. He's available to JSA, Spiral Corps, and all generic armies except Combined Army. So every army except CA gets this guy, and also JSA and Spiral Corps. So like, I'm excited he goes into JSA. But yeah, every vanilla army, which I guess we can officially say it's not vanilla now, it's generic army. That's what CB calls them, the generic armies.
The generic.
Access to this guy, which makes me think that Samza is our next year's ITS mini.
Yeah, I was about to say that. And he's generic. He's Generico Specialist operated. Infiltrator with Mimetism, Super Jump, BS-13, and a Plasma Rifle. who can go into every faction for 30 points. Do you bring him? My
30
reflex
point
is
extra.
no.
Yeah, 30 point extra is a bit high for me.
After my long talk at the beginning of this, answering that mailbag about wounds to point ratio, this guy theoretically would be good, but he's just going to die. He's going to infiltrate up, and he doesn't have a marker state. And he's like, I'm Mimetism 3, and I'm going to suppress with my plasma rifle right at the beginning of the game. And I'm going to go, this camo marker walks 4 and chain rifles you.
Yeah. It's only Fizz 11. If you gave him Fizz 13, I think he'd be great. If you just gave him the ability to dodge. But Fizz 11's a bit too low for me for making a peace trade bait. If his Fizz was 13, I'd consider him, I think.
Or gave him a dodge plus, like a dodge plus 3, and kept his Fizz the same. Like that would work too.
Change that, just use the same point value, change that dodge plus 1 inch to dodge plus 2 Fizz or plus 3 Fizz.
Yeah.
And I'd be fine with it.
Because right now he's just like 50-50. He's just going to die. Arm 3 is cool, but it's 2 50-50 rolls when you shoot at him. And for 30 points, that's dicey.
Yeah, I like everything about him except how tradable he is. And I think I agree with you. I would like, I'm okay with a model having extra and like dying to a bad day. Like I'm okay with the dice taking him away from me, but you can tactically decide to peace trade for him, and anything that with a chain rifle is going to trade up. Like a Cameronian trades up this guy, he's 30 points.
McMurrow trades up.
I know.
McMurrow's 27.
Exactly. I know. Yeah, he's cheaper. That's true. Yeah.
If this guy infiltrates to the front, McMurrow can hit him on turn 1 in his first impetuous.
He sure can.
And so you're like, I use my plasma rifle. So like the coolest thing I think with him is he finally gives a reason to do something other than reduce the order pool by 2. Because this guy infiltrating in cover, suppressing with a plasma rifle with MIM 3 on at the beginning of the game
nightmare.
Is a giant pain in the ass if your opponent doesn't have a marker state camo or template weapon. But everybody has those, or they have dogs.
Yeah, hard agree.
Like I don't know if I'd want to run into this guy with Steel Phalanx. He might be an obnoxious thing for them to deal with. But
yeah, I would agree. And if he is the ITS model, we're going to see a lot of him. So I would like him to at least be useful. Like the last couple ITS models have been super fucking useful. Like we're talking about Bishi and Fiddler, who are great minis, who have been very, very popular in every army. I don't see this guy being as popular without a couple just tiny adjustments. Like I said, I like what's here. I just think that they need to like tweak like 1 or 2 things to make him.
I think if you shaved him
trying to do with him
26 points, I'd probably do it. I don't know why that 4 points means so much, but that's where my brain goes.
The extra skill's got to cost more.
Yeah, that infiltration cost him 4 points. That's what it is.
For me, if you just trade the dodge plus 1 inch to dodge plus 3, I'd be happy. I'd take him.
Weirdly, he doesn't have courage, unlike all of the other extra guys that we've talked about.
I think it's because he's not being mind controlled. He's left I think that's a thematic thing. He's the guy who's left the combined army, right? So he's like one of the bugs that isn't being he's not being mind controlled by the rest of the hive, because the rest of them are all under the influence of the AI or the EA. So I think that's his thing. His thing is like he's broken off. He's like Hugh was to the Borg. He's gone rogue and gotten free. Little TNG reference for you there.
That's it for the contracted backup. Not much to be added there. I think they're kind of cool.
I'm fine with it because I can play with it right now. I don't have to wait for that stuff to come out with. I can just go play with it. So I'm totally fine with that. Much like I'm fine with the Cascuda and the combined army stuff, because with the exception of the Vector, like the extra stuff coming out, you can just play with them right now. Like there's not a lot that's missing for you to just be able to try it out and play.
Yeah. And I personally like bounty hunters and CSUs. Like or diggers. Like I use them in almost all my lists. And
yeah.
So like getting them in potentially scary links and stuff. I like rolling the booty table. I like rolling the meta chemistry and just being like, what happened this game? Oh, well, I lost. Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're not having a very different conversation with the Vipera Pursuit Force because there's not a lot that's that new in this one either. Although I do think what this is going to signify is we're getting a bunch of new sculpts.
Yeah, with the Prowlers, the Lizard, both popping up in here, who both have ancient
Spectres
ass.
maybe too. Spectres aren't that new. And same with the Lunicod.
Oh, yeah.
The Lunicod doesn't have a current sculpt, and the Vostok being in here, and with the recent release of the Peacemaker and the whatchamacallit, the 2 size 4 pano tags came in the same box in plastic. I'm gonna bet the Cyclone and the Lunicod both come in here as well as a release in plastic. But let's go over what's actually in here. So take it away.
There are the Red Ski Crew Mars Spiders, the Kulak Payback Unit, Prowlers, Casino Security Rounders, Lizard Squadron Spectres, all the remotes, almost. And then Jelena Kovac and Raul.
It's basically organized crime. That's who the Nomads call. That makes me so happy. It's
the
like
Vipers.
they call the criminals basically.
The Viper Fire Team or Vipera Fire Team is Kulak's Mars Spiders Prowlers, which I think is interesting, who are normally like exempt from all kinds of links because of their deployment skills. Because there's no deployment skills here, they get to do stuff. Rounders, and notably Raul, who counts as a Viper for their core bonuses. So you can have Kulak's Mars Prowlers and Raul, who is a solid individual guy, and now that he could be in a 5-man pure team is pretty crazy. Assuming you can do it. I don't know if the points are going to work because I don't know the Kulaks and the Mars Spiders until we tab over. And then there's a Lizard duo with the Lizard and Mars Spider. And then your wild cards are Stemplers, Cyclones, Vostoks, Jelena, and Raul, as stated. I think the Casino Security Rounders, though, they make Securitate look like bitches.
I love it. I love it so much. They have little
earpieces
uniforms. Yeah, well, they all look like they're blackjack dealers. Like they have like their little like blackjack dealer uniform on, and that's got body armor over top of it. It's so great. They're literally like pit bosses. It's fantastic.
If it wasn't for the fact that was almost the style for the Securitate, I would like it more. Because the Securitate have like the vests, right? Like they went the different route. Like the 2 sides of the coin where the Securitate have like robo arms and like sir, I'm a police officer. But it's the glasses and the earpiece. I think that's what gets me every time. And the little tie. Because they literally took a Securitate and gave him a jacket and were like, yo, go guard the casino this time.
Well, they're all private security. Like even the Securitate are private security too, right? So like the whole idea is these are a different kind of private security that happen to be like casino pit bosses.
Actually, now that I have them next to each other, it is actually just the same, only this one got a jacket.
Yeah.
Oh, even the pants are the same.
I like the theme.
But the part that I like more is marksmanship plus MSV1, BS12.
And NCO built in, and biometric visor, because fucking why not, I guess, because it might be useful.
We just give that out now. We just give
it for free. If biometric visor in their matrix doesn't cost 0 points, I will be shocked. It should just be free. It should just be 0 points. Everybody should just get one.
We give them out at random. It's right, every time they make a new profile, they spin the wheel, or they go like, "Is that person wearing? Did we sculpt him with goggles? Okay, give him biometric visor." If he has
the sunglasses from They Live, where you can just see the space alien, you can see the alien face. It's not actually like any kind of visor. It's just weird black thick wraparound glasses from They Live. You get the Roddy Piper glasses by accident.
21 to 26 points. Boarding shotgun, shock marksman rifle, Red Furies, and SMGs are their 4 weapon types. Hacking device upgrade Trinity SMG for 22 points with marksmanship NCO.
Baller profile. That's such a baller profile.
I think shock marksman rifle is also up there because marksman rifles with marksmanship and MSV that are linkable are hilariously powerful too.
So the thing with an SMG is it discounts the point value, but with marksmanship and an SMG, it's effectively an AP. It's a multi-rifle. Because the fact that you're not +3 up to 16, you're 0, but you're ignoring cover. makes the math the same, except you can be AP shock. So it's a weird sweet spot having marksmanship in an SMG where they're actually surprisingly shooty still, which I think is really interesting.
I feel like being only whip 13 in Nomads
is average.
Oh, it's average. There's plenty of whip 13 in Nomads.
Hawk is the big guys.
Yeah, their hacking isn't due to their whip. It's that there's 1,000 of them, and they all have shockingly high BTS. The hacking game against the Nomads win on like the raw stat by like a point, but almost all the Nomads have like weirdly good BTS too, right? Like there's a bunch of like built-in defensive stuff. They're like tougher hackers.
I see.
Or they do have a few standouts as well. Like there are some either named characters or things like the interventors who are like the whip 15
and BTS 9,
or the Zoe and Pywell who are buffed up a bunch. Like there are some names that show up. Yeah, Jazz and Billy's another one who are like, we're good hackers because we have these like 4 people, and also everyone else just got a hacker as well. We give those out.
Merry Problems. They've got like tons of like named hackers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like these guys. I think they're cool. They're your point men and your fire teams. They have really solid stats, and the models make me really happy. I think they're very cool.
I think the Shock Marksman. I think that's it.
Well, you'll notice they're the ones they're your Harris though, because they did not give them the Vipera award. So you're never getting, unless you take 5 of them, which you can't. They're never getting the core rule, and they only have AVA 2.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
because they're not going to stack that on top of all that gear, right? If you gave them a core link and all that,
they're not going to give you BS 18 MSV 1. Yeah,
for
what are we, bolts?
No, yeah, exactly. This isn't Pano.
Yeah, you don't get that.
Yeah. All right, we have the Kulaks, the payback unit.
These are another unit. Move 4/4, BS 13, Arm 2, BTS 3, 1 wound, AVA 5, Whip 13. They have BS attack shock built in, which is pretty cool because they like you can't go wrong with shock built into your weapons. Bioimmunity, which is at least now you have armor 3, I guess. Mim 3, terrain total, and religious troop. These guys are like they're 22 to 29 points depending on their equipment. They bring all of the types of hacker plus a chain of command, a forward observer, and they're armed with combi rifles, pulsars, heavy rockets, boarding shotguns, SMGs. Their standouts are, I think, the combined or combi rifle plus 1 burst, the pulsar plus 1 burst with the heavy rocket, and then your poison of specialists. I think their hacking game is kind of not as great because they're whip 13s, and you're bringing them if you wanted to, like if you had the points sort of thing, because they get discounted for the killer hacker and the regular hacker. Killer hacker in particular being 22 points and no swick is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
For a BS 13 Mim 3 guy who is linkable, but I think the rocket and the basic plus 1 burst combi rifle guy is pretty sweet.
Yeah. Having even like a core killer hacker, because this is the one that does have the Vipera word, so you're going to use these for the core if you're taking one. In reinforcements, we don't know if they're available as a core in Vanilla Nomad, or not Vanilla Nomads, in any other sectorial or faction. I'm assuming these guys are going into Tunguska. It feels like they're a Tunguska unit when they get dropped out at some point too, so I guess we'll find out.
I thought that, but I don't think Prowlers are in anything other than Bakunin.
Oh yeah, they could be Bakunin maybe.
And and Bakunin is the only one that has Prowlers. So
that's true. I mean, it's bandits that are in Corridor. You're right. It's so like Bakunin that has the other ones. Yeah.
I don't think that's where they'll go. Like maybe they'll just change it when they get into vanilla, but based on the fact that they team up with Prowlers, they should go in Corregidor, I think. But
I don't know, and burst 5 combi rifles for 25 points are pretty cool.
I agree. So even just the 3 of them for the burst 5 combi rifle with Mim 3, right? Arm 3, Mim 3.
Exactly. And BS 13.
Yep.
Legit.
Tons of bullets.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. And then my favorite out of the group, for the same reason all of the other, hey, we got a template with extra burst. The Mars Spiders or Mars Spiders. I don't know. Redskis. They are
Mars fighters.
6'2", 6'2", BS11, irrelevant. Whip 13, Fizz 13, both of which are not irrelevant. Arm 1, 1 wound, AVA 5. They are CC 23 with martial arts 1 and CC attack +1 burst. Courage, dodge 1 inch, gizmo kits. They're not engineers, but sometimes they are, but they all have gizmo kits. Do with that as you will. Climbing plus and 360 visors. They are 18 to 22 points, and they're armed. All of them have heavy flamethrowers +1 burst. All of them have flash pulses, and then you get to choose between a Panzerfaust +1 burst grenades, a Panzerfaust, or a medkit as either an engineer or paramedic at the end. Why is it heavy flamethrower, flash pulse, grenades +1 burst? Why is he the best of them for 18 points?
I don't know, man. I love for 19 points a paramedic that also has a gizmo kit. Like, think about that for a second. For 19 points, you got a dude that can go into like a little Harris and can shoot heal bullets at whatever you want. Doesn't matter what it is. He's also a peace trader. He's also got a flash pulse. He's also got an assault pistol and a DA close combat weapon. That guy does so many missions right now. He lets you fight all of those like AC2 like little target like only
they all have the DA close combat weapons.
I know, but this guy also can like bring anybody you want back to life at range in a Harris, and has like the super flamethrower and the assault pistol. I think that guy for me, like I don't disagree. The grenade guy's amazing because he also has a +1 burst, a burst 3 thrown grenade, which is hilarious. But for utility, I think that paramedic profile is bonkers. It's so good.
6'2" climbing plus spec fire grenades on 10s.
Hell yeah.
Climbing plus 360 is beautiful, especially with the heavy flamethrower.
And a flash pulse with whip 13 means he's pretty accurate as a deterrent. Like the Panzerfaust, I think, lose out because the flash pulse is like good enough. And the 2-tap heavy flamethrower, because heavy flamethrowers are way worse than chain rifles. Like chain rifles are obnoxious, but heavy flamethrower is like, oh, I might just die. Watch out, Cascuda.
Is Specfire limited to 1 burst?
It is, yeah. You can't do more than one.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
it's more that it just opens up that door. And because it's a 50-50 throw, like that's pretty good. Like if they were Fizz 10, I would not push that. But Fizz 13 means if they're in that +3 range, they're throwing 10s. To blow up a whole link with that.
This is I feel like you just want 5 Mars fighters. Yeah. And it was like, pew, 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 you're down. Get up. Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah. Maybe you mix them a bit and like you have some medkit guy. Yeah. I feel like you want to bring at least 1 grenade.
I don't think you want all paramedics in firefight, Dan. I don't think if you lose all your paramedics, like you just having all those specialists isn't necessary.
Do you know how I play firefight?
They're very good.
I ignore specialists. I let them get the specialist points.
Ignore all
because I get all the cool specialists and they get none.
Yeah. And that's fair. And you just ignore all of the rules of the actual mission or the scoring.
But then I win.
Roger that. Great.
Well, are we talking about scoring on missions using reinforcements? Because we can have a whole conversation about what scoring on missions with reinforcements means.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Because I think it's worth pointing out that these idiots with these AVA 5 are starting on the deployment or on the middle board. They're not starting in your deployment. He doesn't have to make it across the board. His gang of 5 friends who all have flamethrowers and 360 visors and burst 3 or 2 are just running into your deployment as soon as they're on the board.
The 360 visor on a burst 3 heavy flamethrower, well, burst 2 an arrow. Or, because they'd be linked. Yeah,
burst 2 times 5. Yeah.
Yeah, just shooting every direction.
I'm going to coordinate flamethrowers.
Just a spiral of fire in every direction.
These two are shooting flamethrowers, and this guy's throwing 3 grenades at you or 2 grenades at you.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably bring 1 grenades guy and the rest paramedics.
Sure.
I like the Panzerfaust too, just defensively. I'd probably go, if I was doing a Harris, I'd go Panzerfaust, grenades, paramedic.
If it wasn't for the fact that this is their reinforcement profile where they're going to start halfway up, I'd bring the Panzerfausts. But because they're going to be like 1 step from being in bad range for Panzerfaust, or at least suboptimal range for Panzerfausts, grenades. Yeah. Also, these guys are
the flamethrowers. The flamethrowers not range in the thing. You're shooting many burst flamethrowers with tags and stuff, and forcing the dodge because no tag wants to make 3 heavy flamethrower rolls and then potentially burn to death.
And if you get into melee, you're guaranteed to hit against everything unless they have like a inflict a minus to you. And you have 2 bursts with a DA weapon and Fizz 13.
But yeah, they're wildly good in melee.
You're still hitting on 20s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if they do a mod on you, you guarantee to hit with 2 dice, though.
Wildly good in melee.
Yeah. And they still have the martial arts one to give a little bit of a negative to their opponent. But 2 dice in CC is better than almost any stats. Like, you can mod me as much as you want, but if I get 2 rolls and you get 1, I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. The dice instancing way high.
Yeah.
No, I like these guys. I think they're interesting. They have place. I mean, we don't know where everyone's going to land yet. The last bit of kind of news is we did see where, because we didn't mention this last episode, and it's worth, because we did mention it for the Cascuda, the fact that he is going to be in vanilla, or I guess we can say generic combined army now, and also in the Onyx Contact Force. But we saw that Maximus is going to be landing in generic Aleph and the Operation subsection, and then in Pan-Oceania, in generic Pano, and also in the Varuna, Neoterra, and Sparlaheima, which I think is really interesting. So we'll have to see what the rest of this looks like, because obviously these are just the spoilers. August 3rd, which is the end of next week, is when the profiles will go live on Army. So the rest of our questions will be answered, and we'll probably do one more little follow-up when we see what the final profiles look like, because the Army update will actually go through. But this is the pre to see what the final look looks like. And then going into August, we'll actually get like an Army update for what the like what those infiltration skills, what those extra look like, what all those profiles look like when they transform into their actual in-army equivalents. So I'm pretty hyped. I think it's gonna be neat.
I'm mostly interested in what the final release is for O12, because I think they have the weirdest like inconsistencies between models and skills. So it's I'm wondering how they're going to finally land, and I want to see if Samsa gets better. That's like, maybe he's going to have some shtick. I mean, it kind of sucks because they've shown his profile, but they could do like an Agatha thing and just cut him in half for points and be like, yeah, okay, she's pretty good now. Like she's like usable. She isn't just like a really expensive mediocre medic.
Yeah, and that could be just his reinforcement profile too, right? He might get.
Well, they show his generic, right? That 30-point.
Oh, that's right, because it has infiltration in it. It has to be
right.
When you're right.
Yeah. So unlike his reinforcement one, which is it's like if his generic one had infiltration and cost 26 points, I think he's got something to do. But for whatever reason, hitting that 30-point mark, I'm like, for a guy who's just gonna die, like like a nanopulsar is gonna walk up on him and he's just gonna evaporate. No BTS, like. He just gets killed. Yeah. And then you look at these, like, and then you look at the Mars Spider, right? Like 18-point Mars Spider versus Samsa. I will take that every day of the week at any range band. And that stupid Mars Rider is probably going to close the gap and kill him.
Mars Riders are your new favorite thing. I'm excited by how much you like a trolling profile like that.
Well, it's funny because they're
a different profile.
There's so many of them. Like, there's him, the Hakislav one, the other one who got it?
The Apache you liked?
Yep, the Apache got it. Because like I remember the Corsan, because the Corsan is the +2 chain rifle that's likable.
It's kind of like the Diablos in Corregidor, where everybody, like, some factions got their like version of a digger. This feels like kind of their version of a digger. Like they're not all 2 wounds like he is with the Battle Ravaged or heavy infantry like the Diablos are, but like that's still that kind of idea of this like template brawler weird tech piece that seemed to become more common in every faction.
Like, as someone who is a fan of the piece trading, the fact that the Apache, the Corsan, and this guy have all come out at the same time, like, these guys are crazy. And all 3 of them have, like, normally they don't get the movement shenanigans, like they don't get super jumper climbing plus as a way to like stop the Gazis from being like absolute rampagers, and they just give them all. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Apaches are natural born warrior with CC attack +1 burst, +1 damage, no wound to cap, shock immune shot, super jump, 16 points. Give them grenades too, +1 burst. Fuck it. Like,
why not?
Yeah, and then the Coruscant is 14 points with Natural Born Warrior and Climbing Plus. Oh, he didn't get the 2-point increase for Shock Immune Natural Born Warrior, or sorry, Shock Immune NWI. Yeah. Since when was that a 2-point upgrade? Like,
well, remember again, those are reinforcement profiles. We haven't seen the final ones.
Correct.
Not that I think those ones will change too much, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, I think the big thing will be if they give them deployment skills like parachutists and stuff that dials up their point cost, they will they'll fall off a cliff kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
We'll have to see.
I'm excited. August 3rd, we'll get the whole gamut and see what the deal is. We did it. That's part 2. It's Reinforcement Rampage, and we'll have our final notes on this when we see the actual in army non-reinforcement profiles. But I'm excited, man. I'll be honest, I think overall this is a good mix of stuff from CB. It's like we're looking at like a year's releases here. It's all super interesting, and I think more than anything else, this makes me excited for the new ITS spec. I want to see new missions. I want to see new play modes. I want to see what comes out in October, because I think that's the one that we really get to dive into, because those will be the games we're playing for the following year, right? I think that 14 was fine. It didn't, but 14 just felt like the culmination of changes they've been making for like 2 seasons, right? Adding the additional models, getting the last kind of like bit of juices wrung out of the classified deck. I'm excited to see what they do with the new classified deck and all this new game mode stuff, and just shake it up a bunch. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
See. All right. Well, that's it, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks to our patrons who make this all possible. You guys will be listening to this a couple days early. And yeah, we got Attack Awareness Summer Siege coming up 20th of August. There will be more info on that on the Attack Aware Facebook page and Discord. You can check out the Discord if you want to see the screen caps of all these profiles. But of course, August 3rd is going to be the actual launch for In Army. So get excited about that. And we'll see you guys next week. I'm going to bed. And everybody.
Bye. Bye.